calling it out, noticing that this isn't working for you is the first big step.
Welcome to Transforming the Toddler Years, a Core 4 parenting podcast blending soul and science-based strategies to empower pandemic moms like you, raising kindergarten-ready kids. I'm Cara Tyrrell, your host, a lifetime lover of littles, girl mom, early childhood educator, and conscious parenting coach who truly believes that how we connect and collaborate with our kids in the first 5 years is how we raise world-ready kids who will change this world.
Today's guest is Nadine Stille. She is a pandemic mom like you, and she's a life and career coach for moms who are at a crossroads in their lives where they want to get away from the daily grind and go for more well-being, more calm, more fulfillment, more career dreams, more of what lights you up, even if it's kind of freaking you out. Nadine talks to us today in a very new and unique way about this idea of work-life integration and how to be present in one when we're there and present in the other when we're there, even if that place that we are is our same home. This is a really important episode for moms who think multitasking is the way it has to be. Find your calm, ground in with me, and let's learn some stress-busting tools. Nadine, thank you so much for taking some time to share your expertise with us today. You're here because I had somebody ask me a specific question about work-life balance, and then literally the next day, you and I had a meet and greet, and I went, oh my gosh, the universe is telling us something.
There is definitely a sign there. I know. Oh gosh, thank you so much for having me on now, Cara. I'm so looking forward to this chat today. Yeah, I loved our very first meet and greet. It seems like we really hit it off straight from the beginning. And then when you shared your question that was posed to you, it was like, you know what? This is what I talk about with my clients all the time. So it's let's do it. Let's record our conversation around
Let's do it is right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into this. First of all, you are somebody who works with moms who are at a crossroads in their life. Now, I can't think of a bigger crossroad in your life than becoming a mom, right? It's the biggest transition we make as women. And then it opens up all these other ideas and worlds and possibilities for us because we want so much to care for our little people in a way that we design. So you take this in a really interesting way. You say you're a life coach and a career coach. Tell us more about how these two blend.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for asking that question. It's, so crossroads is literally, it starts in, with becoming a mother. And then it goes on and on. So my background is actually more in the career coaching side. I used to work as a manager in a global software company and coached women, in what was usually a very male-dominated industries. And then coming out of that, becoming a mother myself, I was like, hey, there are so many things that mothers specifically need support with. Really, even looking at the last few years with the pandemic and everything. And it became pretty clear that there's specifically the crossroads between your personal family life and your professional life. There's so much tension there for so many mothers, and we're spending a lot of time at work, and that has an impact on how we're, on our personal lives, and also our personal lives have an impact on our professional lives. And oftentimes, when people, at least in the past, came to me and saying something like, "I need a new job," it's anything around career coaching, it ended up actually being a lot of looking at the person as a whole and career and taking in their entire lives. And usually there was a lot of tension, or there was tension at the crossroads. How do you balance that? Even though I don't necessarily like that word, because what does balance mean? It's different things to different people. But it's how do you integrate them so it works for you? And it's very, very different for every family, for every parent. Yeah. So even like going forward, that's a matter where there is a lot of tension in both those areas. And people who are coming to me now are like, I don't want to go back to work, or I want to reduce my hours after maternity leave, or I've been a career woman all my life. And now in, I don't know, the end 30s, early 40s, and now I'm becoming a mom for the first time. How do I deal with that situation? There's a big, what do I do now? Or kids are a tiny bit older and the mothers realize, hey, I don't, everything is just a bit blah. I don't want to do that grind anymore. I want more for my life, and whatever that more is, more time for themselves, more times for their careers. It's a very holistic view of that. So I feel both of those areas overlap quite a bit. And that's where I thought I support mothers specifically, but I do actually coach fathers too.
Amazing. Yeah, I love this holistic approach. It blends so well with what we do here at Core 4 Parenting. And this idea that who you are. I was just having this conversation with my husband this morning about the seasons of our life and how each season has its intentionality and its focus and its passion behind it and the goals that we were trying to accomplish. Because this image popped up of 11 years ago when we were actively commercially farming and had little kids alongside us doing it. And we looked at it and we were both like, oh, how did we ever even do that? But it was what you're talking about. That was our season of life. And when we were ready to move on to the next season, we knew, like in our core, in our soul, in our gut, in our fatigue level, we knew we were ready. But making the decision about which avenue to take, that's really, really hard. So it's wonderful that there's people like you that are there to walk us, get out of our own heads a little bit and walk us through where were you? Where do you want to go? What's changed in your life? Where do you see this clarity coming?
Yeah, it's that kind of change where it's like, I know something needs to change, but I don't quite know what it is, or kind of secretly knowing really what it is, but it's scary. It can be really freaking out because what does that mean for myself? What is going to be the impact of my, for the rest of my family? Where am I ever going to take the energy and the time from to change over to something new that may or may not be working out? But just like you said, there's this, a lot of the times when I talk to my clients like that, it's to get out of the head and really connect with your gut feeling, with your heart. What is it that you really, really want? It's like, if no other things were like time and money and energy and all that wasn't an issue, it's like, what is it that you'd actually want? And then we're leaning into that and unravel and seeing how can you bring this into, your day now? Are you ready to take a big leap and just go for it? Or is it going to be baby steps? And we're working with baby steps, but we're still following, your heart, what really leads to that fulfilling life. And a lot of that then leads also into like carving out more time for yourself, being intentional, mindful about how you spend your day, where you spend your energy, where you get the energy from as well. So there's a whole holistic approach to it.
All right. I want to tag back to something that you glossed over earlier, but it was rather a big deal. And it's the whole reason this podcast exists, is that the pandemic really changed parents' understanding of what it meant to be a family. All of a sudden, they were in the same house together all the time for elongated stretches. And for a lot of moms and dads, they said, wait a minute, I don't want to go back to the old way of doing things. There are pieces here I didn't even know existed that I love and I want to lean into, and it means making some changes. So I'm a big believer, because I've lived through it, that trauma causes you to look at all sides of things if that's the way that you think and feel, and shows you opportunities. I know some moms who are listening are like, I felt that. In that time of survival, in that time of just get through the day, I had moments of clarity where I realized I did not want to go back to what we had completely, but I've landed back there because that's how life goes. If there's still a spark in there for them, what do you say to those moms who had that little vision, but it's kind of dimmed out with the chaos of life being back?
Oh gosh, I'm getting goosebumps just hearing you describe that story. It resonates with me too. You know, I'm a pandemic mom as well. And it's like, just lean into it. You start dreaming again. I was like, just let fear out the door. Just shut the door on fear and lean into that a tiny bit more to start dreaming. What if? Wow. What's the gift in leaning into that? What's the opportunity here for you? You know, and not necessarily looking at like the immediate change of what it means to go through that change to get there, wherever there is, but like looking at what it is like to be there, to have that glimmer, what it would be like to no longer be stuck in 2 hours of commute, or, you know, be in the office around people and still not talking to everyone, or, you know, just having intentionally creating your village around you and having people around you that you love. What does that like? What's like painting that picture? Really lean in and start dreaming again. That's what you want. It's like, shut up your brain for a bit and listen to what your heart is saying. Just lean into that a bit more.
So good. So good. And, you know, this is how we create the life we want. It's dreaming. And people do it at every age. My now 18-year-old at 17 said out loud, I will be doing my gap year after high school in Japan. I will be an au pair, and it's happening. And every single thing in the world conspired against her as she took steps to make it happen. And she leaves in 17 days. At the time of this recording. When this is aired, she will have been already on the plane. She did it. She saw the vision. She felt the experience. She brought this into her life with intentional action, even when people told her it was going to be hard and maybe even impossible. And I'm so, so proud of her for doing this. And so if you're a mom out there, there's no stopping you. You can do this too.
Yeah. Some of those things that I keep hearing or coming across are like, oh, I'll do it when the kids are a bit older, or I don't have the energy. How am I going to do this now? Or just not now, you know, at some stage. When is that some stage? You know, when is older? You know, when the kids left the house, when, you know, it's like, and then what until then? You're going, you know, those year until then, what? How are you going to like just ignore everything around you? And it's not, I don't want it to come across as with judgment. It's more around the times like giving you opportunities or options. I'm all about options. It's like you don't have to go through the grind all the time. There are ways out. And I know there are lots of things that could be a lot easier and that are outside our control, be it, you know, available care, more paid leave, all those types of things. But there are also little things that that is within our power that we can start changing. And that's where I'm looking into like helping moms on a one-on-one level. And also just quickly circling back, I used to be an au pair at 18. I presented my parents with a plan. I was the only one from our entire tiny village in Germany saying, I'm going to live abroad. No one's ever done it before. And it's like a few years back, I asked my mom, I was like, how could you let me go? It's like I didn't even like, and she said, Nadine, you had a plan. You always had a plan. And you know what my biggest driver was? People said I couldn't do it. It's like, oh, you'll come back. you won't last a year. And I was like, I'm going to show you. I'm going to make it work. And when it got really tough, I made it work. It was tough, but I made it work. It was one of the best things ever. I still draw from that experience. So oh my gosh, I hope I'll be following you on Instagram and hope I can get some insights there. And I'm wishing your daughter the best of that's all the fun and all the things that you learn and draw from it for the rest of her life. Oh my gosh, being back there and dream. And we lose that a bit as adults, right? We get to know all those things that it's like we get to become more aware of all the things that could go wrong rather than, hey, what if it wasn't that difficult? What if it was easy? What if it was fun? Huh? What about that? What if that journey to get there was actually fun and it gives you that energy that you need right now?
Oh, yes.
Then, huh?
And everyone says, well, how are you doing? Right? Like, I must be crumbling. Am I a little nervous? Well, I mean, it's a long journey. She's going to have, yes, of course, there's detailed pieces, but mostly I just know that if she is this determined to design her life, then I did my best job when she was young to design her childhood in such a way that she feels adamant and she feels like she can be her own best advocate. And she knows she's ready to learn new skills and a new language and a new culture. And it's all just so good. So yeah, for me, it's proof. It's proof that this collaborative parenting methodology works. And that it works at every level, not just the toddler years, which of course is where I teach because start at the beginning. That's where we have to be.
Put the foundations. So you have the foundations in, and also just a recognition. Well done, mama.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. We all need to hear that, don't we?
Yeah.
All right. I want to get to this question and I'm going to call out my amazing listener. Jamie, this is for you, my friend. What about the moms who do work from home, whether we're mompreneuring and so we're balancing that major multitasking experience of being a mom and fitting in, building a business alongside growing our babies, or you actually still work remotely for a company, but you're in the home. How do you switch between mom mode and work mode, feeling like you're giving each of them what they need from you, that attention, that intention, that focus, without being in mom mode thinking about work because your computer's over there on the couch, or being at work and thinking, I wonder how long this nap is going to last. Like, how do you focus so that you can do the best job for both things in your life?
Well, I'd like to pause that for a tiny bit before I come to the answer with that question, starting really with validating that this is such a common problem. It's like so many of my clients struggle with that. And it's energy draining. You're always in limbo, never quite at one place fully. And then it starts spiraling. Oh, I should be doing, this about work, or I need to get back to work while you're, in actually supposed to be in family mode. And then at work, you're like, oh, but maybe I should just check in on them. And, and then the whole kind of guilt tripping starts and the negative chatter about, oh, I should know better by now. And I've done this for so long. And why isn't this working? And isn't that exhausting?
It's exhausting.
Like, being like that all the time. And I just want to call out Jamie. You said is your listener's name? It's like, it's normal. And there's also a solution for this. There's different ways of like approaching this, but it is important to say you are not alone in this. It's a very common thing that lots of parents struggle with, especially when they're also still at home, because you're constantly surrounded by the same areas and the same people around you. So yeah, that's important to start off with. And so the kind of the approach to this, again, is to be mindful around it when that happens. So even like calling it out, noticing that this isn't working for you is the first big step, right? It's like similar to when you're doing your parenting. It's like you notice what's going on and then take steps around it. And you need to do it with a calm mindset and approach it with a bit of curiosity. So what could work for you here? How can you make conscious decisions to like balance that out a bit more and be more present in either or way around it? And yeah, there are a few ways. Not all of them always work depending on how you're like set up. But are you okay, Cara, if I like go through some of those strategies?
I
Right
would
now?
love that. And I'll tell you why. I did a little research and I read this statistic and I was like, we need Nadine to help us with this.
Oh, okay.
Studies are showing it takes 23 minutes to refocus or fully re-engage after a distraction. No wonder it's so exhausting. So if you have some proactive strategies that like maybe 2 or 3 hit the good ones that we can start with today, that would be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, also that's why probably like multitasking doesn't work. You're constantly in and out and never really like focus in one area. So the important thing to start with is probably our mindset around this, because we've existed or worked or lived that way for, probably the last few years. So it's a way that we're automatically functioning. So approaching this, how can I be more present in either or space, is a matter of learning how to do it. So we need to take a learning or a growth mindset, meaning this is something that we're learning. So it's not always going to go right away. That's important to start off with, because otherwise it's really easy to go back down into the spiral of, oh, this isn't working, or why isn't this working? I should be doing this better by now. It's like, no, we'll just shove this all out of the window. It's like, we're working on this. So let's see how we can make this work and maybe go through a few strategies until the one that, works for us actually sticks. So there's no one way that works for everyone, but there's a few ways. And so mindsets first, and then also figuring out, why is this important for you? Why is it important for you specifically? Because if something goes wrong later down the line, it's like, hang on, this is why we're doing it. This is why we want to stick to it. So we'll explore a bit further on. So why is it important? Just explore that a bit. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. But if you do have a partner at home, it might be good to work on this together as well. And then some of those strategies could be what I call stress busters. It's like, bust your stress. So some of those things could be to have an actual cut. What could that be, that cut? For some people, it's changing of clothes. So if you're working at home and you're working from home, what are your typical work clothings? And what would you wear if you weren't working? So the changeover, the physical activity of changing over into clothes that represent your family life rather than your work life, that could help just mentally also making the cut. Another thing is the physical space. So maybe designate a space at home that is just for working. There's no playing time there if you possibly can. I know it's not always possible to have your own office space or whatever, but it's like, if you're working from the kitchen table, maybe have your laptop set up there. You have, maybe your specific stationery that is just for work. And when you're done, you take all of that and put it somewhere else where you don't actually see it. So it's the physical things of changing over, changing location, and not necessarily seeing your work equipment, so to say.
Just blew my mind. I'm going to let you continue, I promise. But I have to say, you just blew my mind with those two things. The changing of the clothes, that's brilliant, right? Even if you work outside the house, you get home and you're like, let me put on my cozy clothes, right? Yeah. This is my cool down time. That's amazing. And then you just reminded me of this. I interviewed a podcaster the other day and we did a swap. And I said, where are you? This looks such a great little nook space that you created for yourself. She was in her bedroom, but she took one of those accordion,
those
like those accordion style dividers, and it had a beautiful display on it, and it made it look like she was in this little oasis, and she felt like she was too. So I just wanted to throw that in as another idea, because you blew my mind, and then it made me think of it.
Perfect. Yeah. So, something like that works. And you're playing around, like what works for your space in your area. Do you think, give it a go? And if not, okay, scrap it and go to the next thing. And also, we were talking about stress busters. Another thing could be a meditation, something to ground yourself. For other people, it could be actually maybe just one of those grounding exercises could be like journaling. Like, could be the same 3 things every single day. At the end of work, you close your laptop and you write down, how do I want to be in the next few hours with my family? How do I want to feel at the end of the day? And maybe something else along the lines of, how can I bring more fun into the next little while? How can I be more present? Just something like literally a minute, not more. I wouldn't put that into, but give it a go, see if that works. And talk about fun and stress busters. What if you just put on your favorite song really loud at the end of work? And, like I'm a Swiftie, so I would just always like, shake it off. It's like, that song. It's like turn up the volume or, to your favorite song, and just literally also the physical exercise, get off your chair, shake it off, move around, maybe sing along, be a bit silly around it. And that's also I wouldn't do this at work type of thing. It's family time. So as a stress buster, there's different ways of going about it. And does a song for you immediately come to mind? What would you put on, Cara?
Oh, that's a great question. My girls are big fans of ABBA and the movies that went along with them. Yeah. So we'd probably do Dancing Queen.
Oh! Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. Who knew you would talk about ABBA songs in today's podcast, huh?
No, we never know anything with podcasts, do we? And this is why the magic happens. Yeah. And I love this because I'm thinking about my life as my work weaves itself into my day, which means I have moments that I'm at work, and then I have other moments that I get to be in my family space and back to work. So having these little hacks that I would probably, with that journaling you were saying, I will not pay attention to work again until 2:30 p.m. Right? I would probably just finish with that because I'm not done for the day, but I'm done for now.
Yeah. And it's that intention setting, right? Writing it out. There's something powerful in seeing it on paper, writing it out, or even saying it out loud, right? It's like if you don't have paper or whatever online, it's like saying that one sentence out loud, go change your clothing, put on some fun music, and then, there you go. Oh my gosh, all the possibilities of what's going on.
Wow. Nadine is blowing my mind right now. And I know I'm going to be using some of these strategies to mitigate my stress over the holidays. How about you? I am so excited to invite you to our 12 Days of Christmas Toddler Tips Survival Challenge. Yes, I sing to you on the first day of Christmas, my toddler. Want to know the rest? Join us. Sign up for the challenge today and come on into our private Facebook group where we are going to learn and grow together and find the magic of the holidays inside the madness. Click through the link in the show notes or go to caratyrrell.com/magic to register today.
So another way of making it work is it kind of weaves a bit into the growth mindset that I said earlier. It's like, be okay with it being okay for 80%. It's like, if it doesn't go right all the time, like, be okay with it. Okay, today wasn't a great day. It didn't always work, but okay, you try your best the next day around. Like, don't beat yourself up if it doesn't work. And also be really clear about, or that there will be times when you have to go back earlier. Maybe there are genuine like emergencies or things like, if you're at work and you get a call to pick up your kids from school, you'd go and pick up your kids from school, right? It's like, are there areas in your professional life where you allow for that as well when you're at family time? Just be clear about it and then say, okay, I'll aim for 80% okay, especially if you're a perfectionist. Aim for 80% and then, see how you can notch it up. But just even like taking the pressure out of it, I think can help a bit as well. And go with something that's easy, really easy. What makes sense for you? Is it the changing of clothes? Is it something else altogether? Where we were talking about those hacks just now. What else comes up for you? Maybe there's something I haven't heard of before or tried out. And then I'd love to know. It's like, please, like, post something on Insta and tag us both. We would love to know, right? If there's something else that really works for you in that way. And I don't know if you've covered this before in your podcast. I'm still on my way to listening to your entire amazing back catalog of episodes. Sorry, with the frog in my throat. But habit stacking. And so if there's already something that you're doing and that works, like maybe put another habit or attach another habit to it. So if you say, for instance, you work from home and you go and pick up your kids from school, or whatever, that's already something that you're doing anyway. How can you attach something else new that will help you be more focused in the moment? So while you're going and picking up your kids, is it possible for you to listen to some meditations or do a mindful walk and like really just pay notice and attention to everything around you to focus more on that rather than all the thoughts in your head? Is there something else that you can attach that to, or listen to that fun music while you're going and picking up your kids? Like, just putting habits together, something that already works for you with something new that you want to try out, makes it easier to stick to something more, makes it easier to stick to that new routine. And another hack's like boundary setting, and even online tools or apps help you with that, to be more focused in the morning, if possible. So if you're at work or for your work times, like set times in your calendar when you're actually going to be at work. Can you set out of office replies after 5 p.m.? Hey, thank you for your email. I'll be available again for you tomorrow from, 8, 9 a.m. in the morning. I'll be happy to get back to you. Is there something that you can communicate to your team and say, I will be, working until 4 every day, and then I do have a window of getting back to you after 9 o'clock, but in between, you won't be able to get hold of me. Is there something where, do you have a separate work phone? Can you put that actually away instead of having it on you all the time? Or those pop-up notifications on your phone with work emails. Do you need to see them coming up when you're, about to have dinner? Or is that something that you can just like not have it pop up? So make use of the ads that are out there to really like be more focused in the moment. And also really, sometimes I think with boundaries, one of the biggest things is not necessarily to get other people to adhere to them, but to adhere to them yourself. So it's like, if you say you're not going to check and reply to emails after 5, just don't. Like, even if you have the time, just don't go back and answer them, because that means that signals to other people that you're not yourself sticking to the boundaries that you set. So maybe they could like ignore them too, because they're not as important. So like really stick to them and get your partner on board as well with that. Like, if we're not talking about work over dinner, then we're just not talking about work over dinner, because that's going back in there. It's like, be intentional. What are the types of things that you do want to talk about over dinner together? What could that be? Like, maybe even have a bit of a ritual, check in on everyone's day, be intentional around it, mindful. Hey, what was fun at work today? what surprised you at school? It's like be really, again, intentional. I think I've said that word too much right now.
It's our focus. I love this. One of the things that always amazes me and shouldn't anymore, but I guess it's just the human experience, is that my guests come on and they share their wisdom. And I realize, oh my gosh, I teach all of this under the guise of parenting, but I don't really subscribe to it so much in the guise of just living, right? They are the same thing. I teach parents to model for their kids. I mean what I say and I say what I mean. So that means when you drew that boundary line with your words, you either maintain that line or you don't. And if you don't, your kids know that that line was never really drawn to begin with, right? Yeah. And so if we are going to draw these lines for ourselves and then kind of welsh on our own promise to ourselves, that doesn't feel good. As I'm listening to you talk, I'm thinking, I need to respect myself more. I need to honor my own words more and really hold that line.
Hold that line, exactly. And again, it's not always going to be right. That's where I said, the growth mindset, but it's like, what does that look like? And actually the next, one of the other points that I wanted to bring across is like, where might we self-sabotage and say, oh, but I just have 5 minutes now and I can, press that reply button on that email or just quickly check in. Like, know yourself. What are the things that you might do or think where you can self-sabotage the being more focused on family time? And then put things in place that might not happen or mitigate those. Again, a partner is a good thing. A coach, or just keeping a scoreboard. Maybe it's like, if you get it right 6 times out of 7 that week, I don't know, get yourself a lollipop. Make it fun, or even get your kids on board. If they're older, you could say, hey, we're not talking about work anymore, and let them call you out.
Absolutely.
Getting at it together. And it's like, we're not talking about it at, over the dinner table. So, okay.
This is a really interesting example, and it has nothing to do exactly with teeny tiny people in parenting, but same concepts here. So my daughter's gluten-free and she has to be. But when I choose to be, I just feel better. Just a truth about myself that I know, but I love gluten. Man, do I love it. We have a pizza joint near us that literally has bumper stickers that say, I love gluten. It's crazy. So I said out loud to her, because I knew I'd never be able to hold myself to my accountability if I was doing it on my own. I am going to go gluten-free for 12 weeks and see what happens and how good I feel afterwards. And I inadvertently made her my accountability partner. And because she's older, she's right there all the time to say, I know you really want that right now, Mom, but remember your promise that you made to yourself. And I'm here to hold you accountable. And at first it was kind of annoying, if I'm being honest, because I'm so used to saying, it's fine. I can cheat. Oh, it's no big deal that I let myself down with this promise. Even though I put a timeline on it, it's not forever if I don't want it to be. And then slowly her saying those things became more of a feeling of support. Like, oh, somebody's got my back. Somebody's protecting me from myself. And I did start to feel better inside my own body. And so that habit, like you were talking about, started to stick. And recently I had an opportunity to eat gluten and she wasn't anywhere to be seen. And I could easily have gotten away with it. And I chose not to. So I love everything that you're saying about finding a trusted person. You don't want someone who's going to jump up in your face and judge you.
No, we're all in this together. It's the learning thing around it, right? It's like, let's make this better for us. Let's be more in the moment. Family time is family time. And yeah, there may be some exceptions around it where where you have to jump back into work mode or whatever. But we're all in this together. That's why it's also so important. What I said at the beginning is like, know your why. Why do you want to do it? What do you get out of this? What's the opportunity here for you as a family if you do make this stick together and have a good, routine in the evenings together of what you do or how do you want to be together? So there's lots to unpack, and there's not one right. There's a bit of things to explore, but I hope some of the ideas will stick. And I was like, now I want to know what everyone's favorite song is that they want to dance to.
What I was feeling when you started listing all these possible ways to take charge was actually excited and hopeful and thinking there's so many different ways that we can do this. And typically that's not how I feel when I approach a challenge, right? So that's wonderful. And you're right. There's tons out there. You have one way that really works for you, and you have mastered it in such a way that you put it into a free gift for everybody who is listening. So tell us what you can do for them to help them if they are a meditator.
Yes, thank you for bringing this up. I do have some free meditations available on my website, and they're pocket-sized. They're called Mama's Moments of Calm. I recorded some meditations that are really easy to do when you're, maybe even ahead of a meeting at work, and you just like need to ground yourself because you've just come from, a stressful experience, or on the way to picking up your kids while you're cooking. You can also use them as kind of a grounding and calming down exercise for a good night's sleep routine as well. So there's 3 different ways in there that are really easy to digest and calming you down, making you more aware of your body, like calming you, bringing you, like centering yourself and taking away the stress. And so, that's available on my website. I know you mentioned earlier, you're going to pop a link in the show notes. So that's probably the best way of accessing them and then to enjoy.
Oh, fantastic. And so here's my hope for you, mamas who are listening, that it will take that 28-minute redirection time and kind of minimize it for you when you use them intentionally. All right. So I always like to wrap up with a little bit of a final question. For moms who work from home in whatever capacity that might be, even in any capacity, whether it's working, we know parenting is a 2.5 times job. They've proven that as well. And you have a partner who works outside of the home. They need a transition when they come back in at the end of a long day. What is your recommendation for how we welcome people back into the home without overwhelming them when they first get there?
The first thing that comes to mind is with a big hug, a big bear hug. It's like, hi, I'm so great. And appreciating your back, big hug, and then give them time to decompress as well. Ideally, you'll talk about this. Again, the intention around it. What will make the biggest difference for you? What do you need when you first come home? But welcoming them home and then giving them space. But also it's like showing them, here are some options. Do you have a playlist together? Do you want to both, do the times overlap where you're both, like, your work is done and your partner comes back home and you go and change together, right? It's like into home clothes, or sit down together at the kitchen counter and just talk about the day for a bit before you both mindfully say, okay, that's it. Kids are here. Let's do this. So doing it together, mindfully check in what works for the other person, because ABBA might not work for everyone, or neither might. It might be a different thing altogether. And I actually find that it works for children too. If they come from school or from daycare, they need a bit of decompression time and not right back into the next big thing. So is there something that you could do together as a family?
I love it. That hug. I mean, I've heard a lot of responses. I've asked this to a number of people in the past, and not just on the show, but just in general, because I'm curious. And the hug, no one's ever said that before. That's so special. And, for kids, that's really, really important, that grounding of physical touch back into a new space. And so why wouldn't it be for the most special adult in your life as well? Nadine, thank you so much for everything you've shared. I have a feeling people might have to listen to this one a few times because they're going to be saying, "Oh, I tried that one. Let me go back and try this now. And let me try this too." We appreciate you. And I cannot wait to listen to those meditations because it's something that I definitely use as a transition strategy.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. I'm grateful for you, Cara. Thank you so much.
Until our next episode, stay mindful and proactive as you transform the toddler years.